Salut survivors! Welcome back to SolutOdka channel in Going Medieval Guide series. Going Medieval can be played in various different ways, as well as several different game settings. You can really customize to your playstyle. However, there are still some general guidelines on how to set your colony in a good shape, which are valid in a vast majority of gameplays. Therefore, I decided to create this video guide to help you start with Going Medieval for your first few days in the game. I will share what I think are the general goals and have a step-by-step approach, and you can follow the timestamps to each step if you desire to jump right to a specific one. I will of course, as usual, include some tips when applicable to various topics covered in this video. The game is in early access, so we should expect some new content in the near future. This might affect this tutorial somehow, but I expect this should not be affected in the bigger picture of things. I have structured my game starts, regardless of the map and style, into 3 phases. Phase 1, initial storage and first day sleep. Phase 2, research, entertainment and agriculture. Phase 3, first raid defense. Now, let's get straight to the video. So at the very beginning, when you land in this land ravaged by the plague, with your couple of villagers, you will have to pick where to build your colony. You will look at the resources around and pick your place. The initial goal will be to have a first camp where you can protect and store your goods, in order to protect yourself from different types of spoilage. Therefore, you will need to build a roof, you will need to build a floor, and protect your books and your different goods. The goal will generally be to have high efficiency in everything you do. Do not start to hoard hundreds of wood, hundreds of sticks if you need 50. You need to pick some small goals, achieve these small goals, and go one after the next. Another early important goal will be to build a basic research table. This will require for you to have at least one of your villagers with a construction skill of 10 right from the beginning, because this research table will then unlock your research tab, be able to unlock the construction of beams and save a lot of materials that otherwise you will need walls in order to support your roof, for example. Very rapidly, you will have one villager chopping wood, because you need to build a lot right at the beginning, one villager doing the construction, while the third villager should focus on moving your goods and put everything in storage in the protected area. Once this is done, you will then be able to build stuff under your roof, including a campfire, beds, a table to eat, maybe even a backgammon table for your people to feel entertained. Then remember what I mentioned about efficiency. So in order to do that, you will be simply able to build multiple small storage area, some default stockpiles, which you will set to a single resource. For example, the sticks adjacent to the campfire. Constantly, while you are building all this, one of your villagers should keep cutting trees. Now, when selecting the trees to cut, as close as possible, you should first obviously pick the dead trees. But try not to chop all the trees around you, because new trees have the probability to grow adjacent to adult trees. Red currant berries are a very important resource early on. Now, in order to avoid to spend time to select which one is ripe and which one is not, I will recommend for you to simply build a red currant field under an existing red currant bush, to select the option Don't Sow, and simply harvest when it's ripe. At your campfire, one of your villagers will be cooking. It is important to take the habit for all crafting recipes, including cooking, to select the ingredients for your recipes. By default, any ingredient will be utilized. Therefore, you can select what will be your fuel, you can select what will be your ingredients, and therefore control what's being utilized and what not. At this point in time, you might have already achieved all the goals of your first day. Now, if you still have more time, you can either harvest more resources, Or perhaps you can consider to build a pen for your animal. Now consider that the size of the pen in the future will dictate how many animals will be able to reproduce and live inside this pen. So don't make a pen too big, don't make a pen too small. It's up to you if you want to produce tons of milk and cheese in the future, or if you just want to have a couple of animals, reproduce them, and harvest for the meat. At the end of this step 1, you will have established an initial storage for your resources so that they don't spoil under a roof, on top of a floor. You will have the basic means for you to produce food, to eat on a table, to sleep on a bed, have a research table, very fundamental for the coming days, and some storage of resources for your wood, your sticks, your hay, and so on, ready to move into the next phase. The key purpose during this phase 2 will be to look toward the future. In order to do that, you will develop your research, your weapons production, prepare yourself for summer, prepare yourself for your first raid, improve the mood of your citizens through entertainment, and set yourself up to be able to build defenses. For your colony to be able to support this development, you will need to have at least one of your villagers to prepare himself or herself to generate a lot of research. You will need to accumulate numerous books in order to keep unlocking new technologies one after the next. This will include tailoring, boyer stable, additional furnitures, and a lot more. When starting, your villagers have an initial buff to their mood, but rapidly this will deteriorate. So you need to anticipate that and prepare your villagers to have several ways to improve their mood. One way to do that is by building the religious shrines so that your people of the two different religions have the possibility to practice their religion at least once per day. Another way to do that will be for them to have a proper bedroom or an improved bedroom compared to the shack we see here, but we'll come to that a little bit later. On the agricultural topic, as you remember, during the day 1, we have harvested our first berries. Now, I will highly recommend to very quickly, maybe on day 2 or day 3, start to plant your own berry bushes, so that in the near future, you'll be able to produce wine. You will also start with cabbage seeds. I will highly recommend for you to plant 2 separate fields. One to be harvested when the cabbages are ripe, so that you can produce cabbages for your own food. And another one where you will select the option going to seeds, meaning that you will not produce much cabbages, but you will produce cabbages seeds for the future planting season. As always, during this period, you will need to keep maintaining a high efficiency. Make sure that you have a constant supply of construction materials. Make sure that you don't hoard on a huge amount of materials. Ensure that your people have the right jobs in their jobs schedules. Prioritize what you need to prioritize. And maintain a good efficiency of your workers. So far, your villagers have been living in a little shack, right? So now will be the time to start to prepare to build rooms. And thanks to the room manager, you will be able to develop what do you need to build. And I would suggest that as part of this development, you will pick a roof to be a flat roof where your people will be able to stand and where they will be able to shoot from. Now, what rooms to build first? I guess it depends to some extent to your playstyle, but for me I like to rapidly build a library and rapidly build a better bedroom for my people, so that I combine the goals to improve the science output, as mentioned earlier, and to improve the mood of the villagers. I would also suggest for you to regularly pay attention to how your people are feeling. How do they feel towards each other? What are their mood buff and their mood debuff, so that you can closely monitor, because some might have different perks than others, some might have more important needs for some specific type of entertainment. So you should take the habit once in a while to check how are your people doing, and this way adjust the priorities of your build order You will then need to prepare yourself to increase your crafting area, as mentioned earlier, for future tailoring, wood crafting, and so on. So you can, from there, select an area where you will build your crafting stations. And for this, I will suggest to ensure to have a lot of beams. And this goes tied up with the stability system, the structural stability system of the game. That by default, when you are fully supported, items have a stability level of 4. And when you have overhangs from the stability level of 4, you will then go down to 3, 2, 1. Now, when you add enough beams to your structures, everything should have a stability of 4 or 3, ideally. Because in the future, you will likely build a basement under your buildings. And when you will dig underground, you will need to manage the stability of what's above you. If you do not build all these beams, then very likely you will lose a roof, you will lose a floor, you will lose a crafting station, you will lose some stone materials. So you need to really consider that early on. As mentioned earlier, the library will be quite important because this will permit you to increase your science output, and everything is being unlocked by science in the game. Therefore, in order for you to build this library, you will need to unlock the technology furniture and build 2 bookshelves or wall bookshelves inside your library. And this way, you will create a room for you to improve your science output. Now consider that in the future, you can add a second research bench, you can increase the storage area for your books, and eventually you will need a much bigger library. But early on, a small library, or medium-sized library, early on, it's very, very useful. Always with a mindset of preparing yourself toward the future, or back to the agricultural topic now. In the wild, you will be able to find plants, and you should consider to look for some of these around your base in order for you to have free seeds, in order to start your own production. This can include medicinal herbs, this can include barley, this can include flax, this can include apple trees. It depends on what the game will have to offer to you. But pay attention to what's around. When it's ripe, go harvest it and gather the seeds, or the saplings for that matter. You will need to start to prepare yourselves for summer. So this will entail 2 aspects, 2 main aspects. One will be to provide a storage area for your food, which will suffer less from the temperature. And another one will be to provide clothing for your villagers to protect from the sun when they're working outdoor. Now, when it comes to the food storage, one easy way is to build an underground shelter. And this is when we will start to dig below. For this, you should build a vertical shaft in order to go down. Now, you can pick to either do it with ladders or with stairs. I prefer to use it with stairs so that animals who will carry stuff for you will also have access underground and be able to bring to storage your cabbages, apples, and so on and so forth. At some point in time, you might have a merchant coming to visit you. And when this is the case, I would highly suggest for you to acquire the seeds that you are missing. So if you don't have flax seeds, maybe you can buy flax seeds, beets, carrots, apple saplings, apple tree saplings, I mean. And this way, start your production of your own seeds in the long term for your village. While you keep writing books with your researcher, right? Then you will need to keep unlocking new technologies. I would suggest at some point in time to unlock tailoring, because this will permit you to craft clothing for summer. And don't do it too late so that you don't do it during summer. You should really do it during spring so that you are ready for summer. Hopefully, you will be able to have found an apple tree sapling in the wild, or you will have purchased an apple tree sapling, and then you will be able to plant it in the future compound of your village. You could also consider to plant a few trees, oak trees, birch trees, in order to have wood for your own production inside the compound of your village. Now, something you need to pay attention to is that in the recent updates, the shadows of the trees will diminish the solar photosynthesis of your garden. Therefore, don't build your trees too close to your garden. In regards to your initial underground food storage area to start summer in a good shape, remember to build beams so that what's above will not collapse. Then create an initial storage area with a floor protection. And then you will be able to set up some storage areas and start to move all your food, at least the raw ingredients, from your above ground hot area to your underground more cooler area. You can actually monitor and check the room temperature and see what the effect on the decomposition and the rotting of the different ingredients. When you will have accomplished that, you will have therefore started to ramp up your research capabilities. You will have provided higher mood values for your people. You will have started your fields. You will have started your preparation for summer. And you will have therefore laid the foundation to look safely toward the future for your village. Now, you will need to start to prepare yourself for your first raid. Preparing for your first raid will involve several components. One main component will be to prepare the passing of the enemies attacking you, meaning that one ideal easy setup is to create a choke point through a single entrance to your compound, therefore controlling the flow of enemies attacking you. Another parameter will be to set up traps and a shooting position in order to shoot at the enemies coming to your corridor, to your choke point, where they will be slowed down and damaged by traps. A third means of preparation will be to ensure that your people are in a good shape for the time of that fight and they have the best weapons and setup as possible. As usual now, remember to always have a high efficiency, meaning that for example you should have a large stock of wood by that time in the center of your base, ready to be available for rapid construction. You can also consider to build some floors where your villagers are very frequently walking and therefore increasing their walking speed. Improving the efficiency will of course trigger for you to be ready for combat faster and smoother. Eventually, an event will be popping up. Likely, a lost person will be being chased by bandits or by NPCs who are trying to catch its coins, and you will have two options. Either you will accept him or her as a refugee, and therefore you will be under attack by the bandits chasing the person, or if you are not ready, then you should not accept the new villager. As much as possible, early in the game, I would recommend accepting the person as long as you are kind of almost ready. Please note that you will not be under attack right away, and you will have 1 to 2 days to prepare before the assault. Also note that your new villager will likely be sick and will need a bed. So rapidly build a bed if you haven't done that before, it's fine, and ensure that one of your villagers will heal him. Also, you need to ensure that the task convalescing is on a high priority for the new villager. Then, before becoming under attack, you should ensure to rapidly finish the perimeter fence all around your compound and have only one choke point, as discussed earlier. You can then start to set up stick traps, but please note that you need a construction skill of level 15 in order to be able to build this stick trap. Towards the end of this choke corridor, full of stick traps, I would suggest to still put a door, so that should the enemies finally reach the end of the corridor, they will then need to break the door. To be noted is that wild animals trying to reach inside your compound will then be hurt by these stick traps. This applies to rodents, as we can see here, but this applies also to walls, much more important later on. As a final touch to the construction of your initial defenses, I would suggest to build a protection for your archers that will be standing on your elevated platform, so that should the enemies attack you with archers, you will have some degree of protection. You should also ensure that the night before a fight, all of your villagers get a good rest, a good sleep, a good entertainment, because the last thing you want is that at the very moment of the fight, your people fall asleep, start to be discontent, that would really not be the right time, right? If you still have time, resources, then I would suggest one more thing, is to provide your people with more weapons. Ideally, you could unlock the technologies for the warrior's table and utilize your villager with the highest carpentry level at that moment in order to craft some bows for your villagers to get ready to defend for their survival. And here it will be. You will have then built the compound, the perimeter fence to your village with one single entrance. You will have set up the traps, the position for shooting at range towards the enemies. You will have provided a good rest to your people and the best weapon they can do. You will be ready to defend the first raid on your village. Now, unfortunately for this video, in this playthrough, during my first attack, I have not been under attack. The bandits decided to let it go, and Cutbald stayed with me without any fight. So in a future video, I will see to get the first raid in actual combat. And if you want to see more in terms of the base defenses concepts, in my 30 tips video, you can have a look. There are numerous tips on how to build a long-term villages defenses, not only for the first raid. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and on that note, let's toast to the like and subscribe buttons. I appreciate very much the support, thank you for watching, and see you in my next videos. Et voilà! Cheers!